Hey, well, good morning to you guys. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you. I don't know, is it too early? Is there like some official date? Like you have to wait until a certain date comes and then you get to wish people Merry Christmas? Kyle, is there an official date? Okay, all right. Well, if it's by choice, then we're in December 2nd. Merry Christmas to you. I'm so glad that you guys are here today. I'm excited about the holiday season, about the Christmas season. In just a few moments, we'll have an opportunity to dive into Scripture together. But before we get there, I just want to kind of take a moment, introduce myself, get to know you a little bit if you're a guest in the room with us. My name is Daniel. My wife and I, Jacqueline, you just saw her just a moment ago. We have the opportunity to serve, the privilege to serve here in Pooler. And so we're so excited about our opportunities here at the Christmas season. I want to be able to share with you some of the things that are happening as they're getting the screens set up. We're going to do some of that on video today in just a moment. If you're a guest with us, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. Maybe you're visiting with family or friends. Maybe you found on the internet or on Facebook today. I know many were struggling through that rain and making their way in here. But if you're a guest, we're so glad that you are here. If you want to take your next step, get to know us a little bit, you could fill out a connection card located in the seat back in front of you. This is a way of just saying, hey, I was here. Here's who I am. At the end of the service today, you can drop that off in boxes located in the back of the room. You can come and bring that to me personally. I'd love to be able to shake hands with you, get to know you a little bit. And it looks like you all survived the rain. I don't see anybody who is like drenched from head to toe. And whoever thought this idea, maybe chivalry was dead or the gentlemanness has kind of subsided, has gone away, I just want to say kudos. I went out there just a bit ago, and there were men out there in their rowboats trying to rescue some of you who were coming in, who had their umbrellas and just had taken that upon themselves. Thank you, the men who I saw out there serving. Could we celebrate them? So grateful for that, just in the ways that you just find ways to serve one another. And so thank you for doing that. And today, as we move into the Christmas season, I want to share some things that are on our calendar. And rather than me just telling you about them, we're going to share them on way of video. And so if you have an event guide, it has our Christmas graphic, has some of this stuff in print. But there are a few additional things that I want you to know about here on video. So why don't you guys take a look?
It's Christmas time!
Well, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, but it's not exactly time yet.
But it should always be Christmas time!
Garth, you are just filled with childlike wonder. That's what I love about you.
And this year, let's discover the gifts of wonder, gifts, presents, Christmas!
We will make the season bright for sure, but let's just have a little patience.
Florence, no one has time for patience when there are presents to open.
Oh, my silent night. Now the news.
Hey guys, I am so excited to give you access to a resource that I believe has the ability to take you to new depths in your walk with Christ. You hear me oftentimes reminding you to test what you hear and see if it's true. One great way to do that is by being in the Word and before the Lord. A second great way to do that is by consuming teaching and resources from multiple communicators and leaders. The problem that many of you have shared with me is, how do I find those resources? We do our best to point you in the right direction, and now we have a way to open the floodgates. We are partnering with Right Now Media to provide you with thousands of resources from different pastors, teachers, and authors. You will almost certainly recognize some of the leaders represented, but this tool will make it easier than ever to connect with new leaders. Let me put it to you this way. Right Now Media is filled with the communicators I turn to for personal growth and encouragement. So I am connecting you to a trusted source. Right Now Media is going to be an exceptional blessing to those of you who are leading or considering leading a Connect group. You will have access to video series, worksheets, study guides, and so much more. Right Now Media is also going to be an amazing resource for your family with access to children's programs you can trust to be wholesome and in line with godly values. Many of you probably have subscription services you pay for each month to access video content. The best part of Right Now Media is that it doesn't cost you a penny. You already do so much to make City Church the great place of hope and community it is. We asked ourselves, how can we bless you and at the same time enrich your lives? Right Now Media, that's how. All we need is your email address so we can send you an email explaining how to unlock this amazing service.
With delicious hot drinks available from 7:30 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, you are sure to find a favorite sip for this holiday season.
Blue Door Coffee and Waffles, 1718 Bull Street.
Have your holly jolly hangout time at Blue Door.
We have an outreach center called City Church Red, located downtown at 41st and Montgomery Street in the Kyler-Brownsville neighborhood.
Now, Red is kind of like Christmas all year. It's an opportunity to grow, connect, serve, and lead.
Hey, haven't I heard that somewhere before?
Probably. Through Red, you can serve the community through neighborhood cleanup, prayer walking, distributing groceries, and so much more.
Matthew and Meredith faithfully lead a team of volunteers who serve the first, second, and third Saturdays of each month.
Therefore, this coming Saturday is your next opportunity to serve at Red at 9 a.m. If you can't show up in person, could you please consider taking time this week to pray for our friends in the Kyler-Brownsville neighborhood? Your prayers make a huge difference.
Hey Pooler ladies, this Friday, December 7th, you're invited to the Ladies Ornament Exchange.
I love ornaments.
I know, honey, but you're not invited. Ladies only, and Lady Else too, of course.
Maybe I'll just exchange my ornament with myself. But you, Pooler ladies, you can RSVP at the Connection Center or on the Facebook event.
Bring a delicious snack to share, plus one wrapped ornament.
On Sunday, December 16th, it's Favorite Christmas Sweater Sunday.
No, Garth, you read that wrong. It's actually Tacky Sweater Sunday.
I know. Every tacky sweater is my favorite sweater, though.
Well, then you should wear yours to City Church on Sunday the 16th, and you will be right at home among other tacky sweater wearers.
My people. I will join you on Tacky Sweater Sunday the 16th. I got you, Pastor Daniel. I got you.
So many of you who are owners here at City Church are not only faithful givers, but you are cheerful givers, and we want to say thank you.
City Church operates in 4 locations, in Pooler and in Savannah on Sunday mornings, at Red on Saturdays, and at Blue Door through the week.
And since Georgia Power doesn't accept payments in form of hugs, it turns out we have to pay cash for our operating expenses.
Are you sure about that one? I can go down there in person and give out some hugs on behalf of City Church.
Well, I know you would, but still money. So as I was saying, when you give to City Church, we aim to put those resources right back here into our own neighborhoods, city, and specific places globally.
We do this through opportunities such as Red, as well as strategic global connections to missions in Africa, Southeast Asia, Italy, and Mexico.
There are 3 ways to give here at City Church. Online, where you can automate the important. Text to give, where you simply text the number on the screen and then follow the prompts. And of course, good old-fashioned paper. Drop your giving into the box by the door.
Simple is sweet, and we want to keep it simple for you.
And as always, thank you for being a cheerful giver.
December 23rd, December 23rd, December 23rd, December 23rd, December 23rd.
You should just come. That's all there is to say about it.
Downtown at our Savannah location at 1624 East 38th Street at 6 p.m. Bring a friend, bring a relative, bring the Grinch.
Come and be with us as we discover the gift of wonder.
It's Christmas. I'm going to go ask if it's time to open our presents yet. Why is my stocking so small?
Oh, my silent night.
Oh, that's fun. Well, again, good morning. We wanted to be able to share these with you in creative ways. Again, you have most of this information being distributed to you in print. Several opportunities for you as we move into the Christmas season. Make sure that you kind of have marked your calendars. You are aware of what's happening in the life of the church. Before we jump into our series here, let me just kind of say this and set your mind at ease. Over the last several weeks, we've had some issues with our screens going on, and I am happy to say that the solution arrived at my house, some of it via Amazon this past week, and so they're going to be installing those, and that's going to fix this issue with the screens flickering, and so we have some faithful volunteers who are coming in and helping this week to be able to install those. So very quick update on that. Again, Merry Christmas to you guys. I'm not sure if you have fully wrapped your head around the idea that we are now in the Christmas season. And let's just kind of figure out where you are in the solution of it all. Oh, my wife is waving at me. If you are a middle school student, you are dismissed at this time. So thank you for the reminder. And they are headed over there that way. Oh, awesome. You guys have a good time today. So let me just kind of poll the room. Let me find out from you guys how into the Christmas spirit you are already. How many of you have actually bought a Christmas tree and put some decorations on it? Let's see where you are. Okay, all right. How many of you have put some decorations around your house? Have you done anything like that? Okay. All right, a little less hands. How many of you have went as far as like putting some lights outside? Have you done that yet? Okay, got some of you in there. How many of you have actually bought a present for someone and not yourself? Okay, present for someone else? Okay, some of you have already done that. Usually whenever I come into this season, I feel like I'm kind of playing catch up. I feel behind. I feel rushed. There seems to be so many things that have to get done and people to buy for and the stuff that's just happening and the calendar fills up. But you guys are ahead of the game. And for me, probably for the first time in my married life, I feel ahead of the game this year. My wife and I have bought the Christmas tree. We brought it in the house, put it in the stand, and we actually put decorations on it this time. Sometimes it sits in that stand for about a good 7 to 10 days, before we can get around to doing that. I braved it to actually put some lights on the house. I didn't fall off the roof, praise God. Still here. That's right. I have gone as far as buying a few Christmas gifts, but I got to confess, okay? I saw some Black Friday deals on some things that I was interested in, and the deals were too good, and I couldn't pass. Amazon delivered a box, I think it was a couple days ago, and I took it over to my wife, and I was like, hey, babe, you bought me a Christmas present. I haven't opened it yet, but thank you. I'm sure it is something wonderful on the inside of this box, and so I'm so excited about the Christmas season, and I've been listening to Christmas music in my truck like maybe 3 or 4 days before Thanksgiving. Year. I am all in. I am ready to go. So I was excited today to come in and for us to begin to talk about the Christmas story, to see decorations here, and to be able to connect with you guys in this holiday time. The reality is, and you know this, and I know this to be true, is so often what happens is we get so caught up in the what's in the whens of Christmas, don't we? What I've got to buy, when I've got to be with family, or we're a blended family, so I've got to be here and then here and then here. Who do I need to exchange gifts with? What do I need to make for that Christmas party? What do I need to wear? Where do I need to show up? So often we get caught up in the what and the when of Christmas. But I know this and you know this. It's not about either one of these things. It's actually about who. It's actually about the who. And the challenge for we can get so rushed in this season, it's so easy to make it happen, is that we can breeze right through the holidays and be so focused on the what and the when that we actually neglect and skip over the who. Now, today, if you've paid attention to your calendar, is December 2nd, and it marks the first day of Advent. Any of you grow up observing Advent? Any of you? Yeah. And so depending on what your family tradition was or maybe your religious background, you might have participated, you might have observed in Advent. And if you're not as well versed in it, you're not familiar with it, it's this idea that refers to the coming of the Christ, the coming of the Messiah. And historically, so this was something I was kind of researching and looking at the origins of where Advent came from and where it started. Historically, it was about 500 years after Jesus had come, after he had been resurrected. About 500 years later, the church started adopting this idea as a way of slowing down as they approached the Christmas season. And it was about this anticipation. It was about this preparation of their hearts, considering what was about to come. And so for you, whether you do it formally and you use language like Advent or just you find your own way to do this, I want to encourage you as an individual, as a family, to slow down this season, to not just blow through the calendar and miss the opportunities in front of us, to not make the mistakes of putting it and surrounding everything about the what's and the whens, but slowing down enough to make it about the who. And so one of the things that my family and I do is we are looking at Scripture together. We're talking about the Christmas story. We're talking about the greatest gift given, and we're being really intentional about doing that. And I hope you will as well. If you're connected to our City Church Facebook page, you're going to see resources that are shared. It'll be good for you as an adult individual. It would be good for you if you're a parent of little ones. You're going to find valuable resources being shared between now and Christmas. Lean into those. Put them into practice. I want to encourage you with that. As a church, we're going to have a tremendous amount of fun during this season. So we have opportunities, Christmas parties that are in front of us, festive tacky sweaters that we're going to be wearing on the 16th and coming in. You're going to come in and have Christmas music out in the lobby, hot chocolate outside. There will be tremendous opportunities for us to just have great fun during this season. But one of the things I want us to commit to doing together as a church is actually slowing down enough that we are focused on the who. And so you'll sing our favorite Christmas songs when we come together, ones that lift up Jesus, that glorify God. We'll talk about the Christmas story as we navigate through what God was getting ready to do, what he was going to do, and promises that he was going to fulfill. So today, as we kick things off, here's where we're going to go, okay? So we're going to talk about the anticipation of Christmas. And so let me just ask you a question. How many of you remember what it was like being a child and you were waiting on, you were anticipating Christmas to come? When I was in grade school, I remembered, and different teachers would do it different ways, but up in the corner on the chalkboard, they would write down the number of days, and it would start well into the 30s. And I just remember watching that number every day. They'd write up, 35. She'd erase it. The next day, 34. And that level of counting down. Maybe you had some sort of countdown in your family. Maybe if you used an Advent calendar or something like that, you counted down. But do you remember that anticipation that was on the inside of you? That thing that just kept stirring and you were waiting for it and waiting for it. And it seemed as if Christmas would never come. It could not come soon enough. Do you remember that feeling? What happens is we grow up and we have this great sense of anticipation, but then we become adults, and before you know it, Christmas has come around again. Whoa, somebody reminds you, it's 3 weeks until Christmas. You walk into Home Depot or Lowe's and they've got out the Christmas trees already. And you're like, wasn't it just Christmas? And something happens where we kind of miss that anticipation moment, the anticipation of Christmas. And I want us to be able to talk about that a little bit today. And so sometimes this anticipation, again, if you were a kid, it kind of gets the best of you. And so let me just, confession time, okay? So confession is good for the soul, and you are in a safe place. You're in church. So how many of you would be so bold, you would be so honest that when you were a kid, you can remember a time when you went searching through the house, you knew that mama or daddy or your guardian had a gift for you and they had hidden it somewhere, how many of you made it your mission to search the house and find out where the gifts were in the house? Yeah. Oh, yeah. My mama's here on the front row. I'm not sure I've ever told you in 37 years. Now, how many of you would go, and this is confession, it's a safe place, okay? It's a safe place, no judgment here. How many of you would say you found those Christmas presents? You knew where the stash was? Mama, I knew you had that closet right in the back of the closet. You had all those tucked over there. Knew right where they were. All right, okay. Hopefully your mama or your daddy is not in the room today because we're going to take this a little bit further today. How many of you... Oh, this is the rebel in you now. How many of you... How many of you went so far, you searched the whole house, you found the secret stash, and you actually opened it and played with it? How many of you found the secret stash, you opened it, you played with it, and you were so bold to rewrap it and think you could hide it and nobody would ever find out about it? Shame, shame. You just went from the nice to the naughty list. Lumps of coal for you all. Elves are watching, that's what I hear. That anticipation can get the best of you. Now, just to be clear, I went searching. I knew where the secret stash was. But I wanted it to be a surprise. And so I held off, okay? I stayed on the nice list. Now, I have 4 children. Many of you know that. I have 4 children. And they're 10, and they're 8, and they're 4, and then they're 2. And up until this point, we've done okay. We, to the best of our knowledge, have not had one of them who were peeking, cracking it open and looking in there. Not one of them who unwrapped it and secretly tried to put it back together. We haven't had that until a few days ago. I see this. So I told you we were early on the Christmas shopping this year. My wife went as far as she's already wrapped them, and the tree came in the house. She puts the present under the tree. And my 4-year-old, I'm just telling you, she is a one-of-a-kind adventure seeker. She has made her way into this present here. And so sometimes that anticipation is just too much, right? And so it's that anticipation that made Christmas Christmas, especially when you were a kid. It's that level of anticipation that actually set up the very first Christmas. And so there was this sense of an anticipation of a Messiah, of Emmanuel, of God with us. And so when we think about where this Messiah would come from, and oftentimes we would go straight to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and we would look at the New Testament Gospels, and we'd start our Christmas story right there. But that's not where it begins. The Christmas story doesn't actually begin with the angels coming and prophesying what was going to happen through this virgin. It doesn't begin there at all. It actually begins all the way on the other side of the book, doesn't it? It actually begins in the book of Genesis. It actually begins from the moment that Adam and Eve, they make this grandiose mistake that we all are cursed by. The Christmas story starts in that moment when God sees what had happened, what had transpired, and now this broken relationship. In that moment, the Christmas story begins with an actual prophecy from God that says, there is coming a day, there will be a day when that adversary, when that serpent will be crushed beneath your heel. That the Christmas story begins so far back in the book. And the Christmas story is wrapped, it's enveloped, it contains all of these promises. And maybe you remember promise made to this guy named Abraham. And he looks at this guy and he sees something in him and decides that he wants to do something through him. And so God does what? He makes him a promise. And he says, Abram, he says, I'm going to bless all people through you. I mean, it begins with a promise. Christmas begins with that promise. And then that promise is compounded, it's built on. And then Abraham has a son, and then the same way that son receives a promise, God establishes an everlasting covenant with Isaac. Jacob comes along, he makes a very similar promise to him. And then you have Judah coming along, and he makes this promise to Judah as well. And you see that this promise is being passed from one generation to the next generation. This nation begins to grow, Israel begins to grow, and God makes a promise to all the people at that time. When King David comes along, he makes a promise, and he says it's going to be through this man's bloodline. And he makes promises. And this story that we celebrate in this season began so much further back in our timeline than what we actually look at when we start in the New Testament book. And so for many, many generations, there was this anticipation of the Messiah. There was this thing that would well up within them, that would grow, that would be compounded on, that would be built on over time. And for generations and generations, they kept believing and hoping in their heart, and they kept looking at the timeline. They'd wake up in the morning and they would think to themselves, surely this is the day. This is the day. This is the day. We've been anticipating, we've been waiting, we've been longing for Emmanuel, for God to be with us. We've been waiting for this moment. And for generations after generations, they held onto this idea. And every generation believed it would be their generation that would see this come to pass. And it was where they placed their hope. It was where their desires were. It was that longing. And you know that it went from Abraham and the promise that was made. Did you know that it was 2,000 years later, 2,000 years later before that promise would come true? 2,000 years. Think about the number of generations that had placed their hope in, that was sitting in this place of anticipation, longing and waiting for the promise to be fulfilled, that a Messiah would come. And 2,000 years come and go, and some people clinging to promises and holding on to ideas, and something happening over time where many people stopped seeing it. Many people stopped anticipating it. Many of them gave up hope. Many of them walked away from the idea that it was ever going to come to pass. But there was always this group. I'm always fascinated by this. There was always this remnant. Though the masses of that time started to turn away and follow Greek culture and Roman culture and to do their own thing and to abandon their faith, there was always this group of people that no matter what was happening, no matter how they were shaken, no matter how their anticipation was being prolonged and held off, they still held on to this promise and to this idea that one day, it's all going to come to pass. One day, it's all going to be true. And so today, as we move into the anticipation, the birth, I want us to feel what maybe they might have felt. It matters to me. It matters to you. It will matter to your family, because I'm convinced of this. And if you've spent any time following Jesus, if you've been a Christ follower, a believer for any period of time, any length of time, you will likely have experienced something similar to what they were experiencing. You will likely have experienced, and if you haven't experienced it, you probably will, that you'll enter into a season of your life in your Christian journey where for some reason it seems as if God has just gone quiet. It seems for some reason that God is not speaking, that God is maybe kind of giving you the silent treatment. Like maybe you continue looking and doing what you know to do, and you're praying, but it feels as if God is not responding, where if God is not active, where maybe God himself has forgotten about you. And somewhere on the inside of us, sometimes we're tempted to say things like, does God really keep his promises? Does God really care? Does God really listen? Why am I doing this? Why do I believe this? Or is this just something that has been handed from one generation to the next generation? And some